All right, welcome back. Fox Sports Radio The Gambler. It is another edition of the Daily Ticket with you here on a Feel Good Wednesday. Beautiful day in the Delaware Valley, and always good when our teams find ways to win. And that's what the Flyers did last night. Victory on the road in Boston. I'm sure it's happened recently, but off the top of my head, it doesn't feel like that those wins come too easy in that building. That's for sure, versus that team in general. To talk more about what's happening with the Flyers. Big game back at it tomorrow night against St. Louis. And of course, recapping what we've seen from the week that was. It's our midweek update with Larry Henry Jr. All things EPL and NHL right here on The Gambler. Larry, good afternoon. How we doing?
Good afternoon, Sean. Good to be back with you, buddy. Yeah, like you said, big win for the Flyers last night. Big win for the Eagles on Sunday. So good to see our teams getting some life back into them right after the Phillies kind of sucked all the energy out of all of us fans. But yeah, it was a good win for the Flyers. Hopefully they can get some consistently going. St. Louis tonight, tomorrow, excuse me, and then back at the weekend. So good to see good performance against a really good Boston Bruins team. Did really well on both sides of the ice. So excited to see it and excited to break it down.
Yeah, look, I think this team is still feeling themselves out, still finding them, still seeing what works and what doesn't work. But that was a big time win, as we said. They were plus 135 dogs yesterday in DraftKings Sportsbook and come away with a 2-0 shutout across the board. I'll take that every day, all day. And I know every Flyer fan will. We're 10 games into the season, 3-6-1 for the Philadelphia Flyers. Larry, your outlook 10 games in is what?
It's about where I kind of expected him to be. Obviously, you get the win on opening night in Vancouver. It was always a good result to start a long road trip. They came back home. They've had some kind of tough games, right? They had the back to back with the Capitals. That's a Metro Division rival, so it's always going to be a tough team. The Bruins game last night, I think, was their best overall performance of the season so far. Going into TD Garden, getting big 2 points there against a really good offensive minded Bruins team. We've seen some good spurts from the Flyers in terms of the guys that we expect to score goals, right? Travis Konechny here and there, Mitchkov with some points, the young players kind of stepping up as well. Tyson Forster scored last night. The big thing with this team is I think it's going to be around the defenders and the goalies because right now, right? Obviously, we no longer with Carter Hart. He has since been removed from the franchise. Samuel Ersson now the number one guy, and he's never been a number one with the Flyers. Really on over a whole season, so he's going to be mixing it up. Mixing time with Ivan Fedidov in net, but I thought Urson was really good last night. 23 saves. The Flyers did extremely well in the penalty kill, forcing the Bruins to go 0 for 4, and that's a really good unit when you talk about Pasternak and Marchand and the guys that they have. So overall, I think it's a good spot for the Flyers. There hasn't been too many injuries to date, which is good. You always get a little worried the first few weeks of the season when guys are putting on the pads for the first time against somebody else other than against their teammates. So overall, I think we got a lot of bright moments to come for the Flyers, and I think again, asking this down the road at the end of November, December, the answer might be a little bit different, but hopefully it's a positive answer because there's a lot of positive players on this team right now.
Yeah, look, we had a lot going as far as momentum for the start of the season, a lot of hype, a lot of a lot of fanfare, and I know that there's still a lot of diehard fans out there for the Flyers. I don't think that that's going to dissipate by no means, but we're only 10 games into it. But it is intriguing to look at to make the playoffs on the yes on DraftKings Sportsbook plus 550 on the no minus 900. So right now, of course, when you sit at 3-6-1 first 10 games into the season, those numbers aren't going to be in your favor. But continuing to find ways like they won on Saturday. Look, that's something that we should be bringing up here, Larry, and I want to get your thoughts on this. They go out there on Saturday against Minnesota and throw 7 up at home. Then they go on the road and they shut out Boston. It looks like that this team, when they're on their mark, they can give it to you both ways, both on the offense and defensive side. So, like I said, I think it's really important for us to realize that I think they're still trying to find who they are, their identity, to steal a lack of a better cliche there.
Yeah, I think when you think about the Flyers, right, John Tortorella, you know what he's about. He's in your face coach. He's going to bring that in his team style play. They're going to be in your face. They're going to be pestering you. They're going to be in on the forecheck. They're going to be trying to find a bunch of different ways to beat you. So right now, we've seen that in the John Tortorella era. This team's always been up for the fight. It's just, can they be up for the fight through an 82 game season? So it'll be really intriguing to see that second half, January, February, March, where they're at, if they're still healthy. Obviously, injuries at some point are going to play a part in the season, and that's going to force other guys to step up. But the great thing I think with this team is you have the veteran guys like Konechny, Sean Couturier, Scott Lawton, guys that have been there. They've been with Tortorella. They know what he's about. They know what the franchise is about. But then you add in those young guys like Michkov, and obviously I know Jet Lachenko got sent back to the OHL, but Tyson Forster, Morgan Frost, younger guys that have been in the Tortorella system. I know Michkov is a newer face, but I think he'll get acclimated to it pretty easily. And he's been, scoring, I think, a point per game so far in his NHL career, which is awesome through 10 games. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. The Metro schedule worries me a little bit just because the amount of teams you have there. You have the Rangers, I think, who are going to kind of run away with that division when it's all said and done. But you have Carolina, really good goal scoring team. You have the Devils, who got off to a fast start because they had those games in the Czech Republic before everyone else. And then you have, Pittsburgh, Washington, Alex Ovechkin, the Islanders. You can't forget about them. Columbus, I know, playing with heavy hearts right now this season. So yeah, it's gonna be a dogfight every single game for the Flyers, but I expect them to be in the mix when it's all said and done.
Yeah, right now the Devils look pretty impressive, although their record doesn't say as much. 12 games into the season, 6-4-2. But goals for and the time that I've been able to watch them, albeit limited, I thought Jersey looked really good. Rangers I watched last night, and which was a pretty good game there. Man, some really interesting stuff from around the NHL and mainly from I must have missed this, Larry, but Connor McDavid scheduled to miss 2 to 3 weeks. That's a lot of games. Could miss up to 12 to 14, 15 games for Edmonton. That's a big loss. Obviously, that's without really going into detail there. I think we all know how good Connor McDavid is.
He's the best player in the NHL. When he's healthy, he's a freak of nature with what he's able to do. We saw in the playoffs last season, getting Edmonton to the Stanley Cup final. Fell short there, and obviously saw the kind of the videos after the fact that came out after of him in the locker room. Get the cameras out of here. Obviously, really emotional guy. Playing for the city of Edmonton. And yeah, it's a big loss because Leon Draisaitl can definitely pick up the slack, but having two of those guys, McDavid and Draisaitl, it's crazy to think about. But when you lose a guy like McDavid, you're losing so much just in terms of not only the goals and the assists, but the playmaking abilities, what he's able to do in possession. It's going to force the other guys, Zach Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, to really kind of fill the gap. But nobody can really fill the gap of a Connor McDavid. He's a once in a kind of a lifetime talent.
All right, Larry, as far as the NHL is concerned this evening, you got anything on your eyes as far as what do we have? 5 games on the ice going off on no, a little bit more than that. Excuse me. So
Six.
we got six games going off on the NHL. A play or two for our listening audience in your mind. Vegas back on the ice, taking on the LA Kings. That's probably the best game of the evening, 10 p.m. Top 2 teams in their division. Of course, Vegas rolling as usual. Kings right behind them early in the year. Got my eye on that game. Give us a play in that one if you do, but please, where else are we looking on the card?
Yeah, that Vegas LA game is what I'll be watching tonight. That's on TNT and HBO Max. That's the game of the night on the West Coast. LA's been a really good team over the last season or so. They've done a really good job of staying consistent. Not only with some of the guys that were around during that Stanley Cup run that they had, like the Kopitars and Drew Doughties, but also these new guys that they've been able to sprinkle in. Warren Fogle had 4 points this season. I think he's done a really good job for them. Goaltending, I think, will be the question with LA this season. Can they stay consistent? You have Darcy Kempner and you have David Rittich. Both have split time this season. Vegas, we know they can score a bunch of goals in a short period of time. Mark Stone's got 9 points. Keegan Kolasar's got 4 goals. I like the Kings at home. I know Vegas is the favorite in this one. I think 7-2-1 right now in the NHL. Kings only have 5 wins, but the Kings definitely have done well at home this season, and I like them to get the win tonight at home. Although Vegas did beat them 6-1 back on October 22nd in
How about
Vegas, and
that?
I know you've seen that atmosphere in Vegas at the Golden Knights games. I mean, it's unreal, right? You got the was it the gladiators statues and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty dynamic. No one tops what Vegas does as far as pregame is concerned. But game is in LA this evening, 10:10 p.m. plus 110 for the Kings, minus 130 for Vegas on the road there. Let's see here. What's the Utah Hockey Club all about this year, Larry?
Utah is pretty good, man. They're pretty good. They're minus right now. I know they're definitely favorites at home tonight against Calgary. They've done a really good job of getting some big results early. I know they're 4-4-2, but they've certainly you can definitely see the energy in the players, right? Obviously, they moved from Phoenix. Things really didn't end there on the best of notes, right? Not a lot of sellouts, not a lot of people in the stands. They go to Utah. They've been able to really sell out a lot of the home games so far. A really young team in terms of goal scorers. You look at just who they have right now. You have Clayton Keller, who's the captain, 5 goals, 5 assists. Nick Schmaltz has 9 points. Dylan Gunther was Player of the Week, I think, 2 weeks ago. He's got 6 goals. So they're a really dynamic team, man. I'm excited to see them. That change of scenery is kind of definitely paying off, I think, for a lot of these players. And I'd actually like them at home against Calgary. I know Calgary had a fast start to the season, sitting 5-3-1 right now, but overall, Utah is definitely impressed. Been one of the impressive teams so far.
Really interesting. Yeah, I said that tongue in cheek, but that is pretty surprising to hear. So I'm glad we stumbled into that one. All right, Larry. From the world of the NHL, let's get on over to the EPL, and it finally happened. I saved the best for last here. Ten Hag out, Manchester United with another tough defeat over the weekend, and it had to be done. I'm surprised it took this long, but here we are, and Manchester United will now finish the season with an interim coach. Oh, well, whatever. He is not going to be the guy no matter what happens from here on out. They're going to spend money and go after a big name target. Your thoughts on how it took place, and where does Manchester United go from here in your mind?
It was definitely, definitely shocking on Sunday watching the match at West Ham. Obviously, they were able to kind of fight back and make it 1-1. With the goal, and then unfortunately VAR kind of bites them at the end. West Ham get the penalty kick and take advantage of it. You couldn't really write it any any better in terms of like the writing on the wall for Eric Ten Hag. I mean, we've talked for multiple weeks now about when this was going to happen, and I expected it to be that if he lost over the weekend that we would see a change. And then I believe it was the next day or that night, the news came out that he was out. So obviously a big decision has to be made from the board about how they're going to go about this, right? Um, obviously they're in European competitions. They have the Premier League, they have the League Cup as well tonight, and then they'll have the FA Cup as well in January. So there's definitely trophies to play for. I'm gonna say probably that the league, definitely that the league is off their radar. I don't expect them to be a threat in the league in terms of challenging for the title with Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. But there are other trophies to play for, and these players, they're hungry. They want to win. These guys, Garnacho, I think there's Delic, Xerxes, the guys that they picked up over the summer. There's definitely talent here. I'm curious to see if they get this managerial move done because obviously, and like you've probably seen as well, the reports of the new manager that they're trying to get, Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, has won 2 league titles there with Lisbon, 2 Portuguese cups, has been there since 2020, so he's been consistent in the job there. I think will bring a dynamic style of play to the mix. You'll probably see some changes in January in terms of the roster. I don't know who maybe goes out, but I expect some faces to come in that kind of fits that. Nothing's been signed yet, but that's all where all the signs are pointing right now. But yeah, it was definitely a shock on Sunday, and again, I'm sure I've probably told you before that I was shocked he even got the job back after the FA Cup win over Manchester City. So Ten Hag out, and but things still have to go forward, and it looks like Ruud van Nistelrooy will fill in as on the interim until they get the deal done for Amarim or whoever else they decide to target.
What's the deal with Amarin? What should I know about him? Because I know nothing about Sporting CP or anything the league that he's coming from.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely a young coach, right? He's 39 years old. He's
Wow.
still pretty young in his career. He played for about 13 years as a player, midfielder. Played for Benfica. He's born in Lisbon, so he now coaches there for their club Sporting. Had 14 caps as a player with Portugal, but has done. I think he's done really well of keeping Sporting Lisbon consistent in that Portuguese league because when I think of the Portuguese league, there's Benfica, you have Sporting Lisbon, and you have Porto. They're the three teams always challenging for the title, always challenging to be in Europe. So he's kept them consistent over the 4 years he's been there. He's won 2 league titles, won 2 Portuguese cups. I think he's definitely, if Manchester United don't sign him, I expect somebody to do it in the near future because he's one of those young guys on the radar. I think when you're winning titles and you're probably younger than 40 years old, it's a really good thing. So I think it'd be an exciting hire for the franchise. You want some good moments to come, and I think he'd be a guy that would definitely get them on the right path for sure.
All right. Well, that is intriguing that he is 39 years young, but again, it's a young man's game these days. We'll see how it plays out. Just on to the next. That's all it is. As I sneeze, excuse me, live
Bless you.
radio right
Yeah.
here. Yes, thank you. Well, look, I get excited, I get frustrated, I'm mad, but it's frustrating because I thought he was a good coach. I did. I thought Ten Hag was a good coach. Now, was he given a fair shake this year with the injuries in your mind? I'm going to sit here and say a totality from start to where we're at right now. Absolutely got a fair shake. They just have not been playing up to the level that was expected and can't take a step back, can't go back. And that's what they've done a few steps back this year. But is it fair to say, as far as injuries are concerned, that Ten Hag got a fair shake?
Yeah, I mean, he knew the players he had. He knew the players that he was getting. Right, they made several moves this summer. I think Xerxes was a exciting hire, but then again, like you said, the injuries. Right, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the center back the young center back they had acquired over the summer, and then I believe he got hurt on the international tour. So it was like a week after they signed him, he was out for 6 months. So yeah, things definitely. He hasn't really had a lot of luck go his way in terms of injuries. But overall, I think there's still a lot of talent on this roster, right? I mean, you look from the back up, Onana and net, Martinez, guys like that in the back, Luke Shaw. Um, but Fernandez in the midfield, Garnacho, Casemiro, who's won 5 Champions League titles. So I mean, there's experience Rashford, Hoyglin up top. So there's definitely guys there. It just seems like near the end of it, you didn't really know what to expect from them. Right? They would dominate possession, dominate, have chances, score a couple goals, miss some others, and then kind of break down defensively. So and it's one of those things where when you're at the bottom, things start to kind of find a way to creep back to you. So you a lot of those same things happened a lot throughout the early stages of the season. So I think Ten Hag, had more than enough chances with the team. He coached over 100 matches with the team. I think he had 70 wins to 35 losses. And then, obviously the draws in there as well. So he had his chances. Unfortunately, I think a team like Manchester United, biggest, I'll go out there and say Manchester United, biggest club in the world. They are. They're well known everywhere here in the U.S., abroad, Europe, Asia, wherever. You have fans everywhere. You want this team performing well, and unfortunately, they haven't been. And something has to change, and you can't, go out and fire 30 players. So the manager's unfortunately got to take the brunt end of it.
All right. Well, on to the next. We'll see what happens for Manchester United. Again, Larry pointed out that they are in action this afternoon, taking on Leicester. So, not really holding my breath for a victory there, but they are minus 425 favorites going into that game there. All right, Larry, great stuff as usual. From the weekend, though, the EPL, just big picture, Man City at the top. 7-2, 7 wins, 2 draws, no losses. Liverpool 7-1-1. Arsenal 5 wins, and they just lost this past weekend. That was probably the big result there for Arsenal losing this weekend. But your thoughts overall on the EPL at this point in time?
It's the title favorites are shaking out to what they expected, right? Manchester City has continued to kind of trug along here with the guys that they have. Has it been fully convincing at times? No. They did just beat Southampton 1-0 over the weekend, and in a game that you normally would expect them to probably put 5-6 past the last place team in the league. But they've continued to kind of get things done. Yes, they have the Champions League, so you add in the rotation. I'm curious with Man City. Do they make some moves in the January window? They lost Julian Alvarez over the summer, who was Erling Haaland's kind of backup striker. He scored double digits as a backup last season, and he ended up moving to Atletico Madrid. So either can Erling Haaland stay healthy and fit for the whole season? Odds are probably against that with how many games they play. So who can kind of step up and to give Haaland a rest here and there? Looking at Liverpool, they've continued to be a threat under the new head coach. They got the 2-2 draw with Arsenal on over the weekend, so that was a good result for them to come back twice and get a point from London. Arsenal, I think they're right now probably the team that's out of the race in terms of those three, just because they've dropped some points. They lost to Bournemouth, I believe, 2 weeks ago. They've already played Man City once, and that ended up being a 2-2 draw. So, this might be one of the final chances really for Arsenal to kind of get some silverware before maybe some of these players start moving elsewhere. So those three I expect to be where they're at. Manchester United, I didn't expect them to be where they are, but we've already talked about that. Another big game for them this weekend against Chelsea, and another tough game for them at home. So excited to see how it all kind of breaks down. But overall, pretty much everybody at where I expected him to be 2 months into the season.
All right, Larry Henry Jr., you can be found at L Henry 019, doing a bang up job, keeping us up to date every single week right here on the Daily Ticket. All things EPL, all things NHL. Good luck in those plays, Larry. We'll continue to follow you on all things socials, and enjoy the Halloween festivities tomorrow night. We'll catch up next week, sir.
All right, Sean, have a good one, buddy.
There he is, Larry Henry Jr. joining us on the Gambler Stream. Daily Ticket rolling on. Lots to get to. More after this.